Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddie, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
So you were doing great. Fantastic.
Dude, I'm a redneck. I can hear you do okay. I'm just telling you. I was letting you know.
So this is another beer.
Let me tell another beer. So this is take two
of the Cool Fireman Podcast. Just so you know, we have been going at this for about 15 minutes. And then we're on take two. Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, take two. So I'm Brian Kelly, Ronnie Hayes, Chief of Leland Fire Rescue, Matt, go ahead, he's laughing, and Adam, in person, live. This is not a regular Zoom.
That hook was nothing like they had when they first got here. Trust me.
I feel like we can't recreate what we've already done. That was so good.
But here we go.
We're going to try to do it again.
That's right.
We'll try to top it. So we are live in person tonight because we are in Leland, North Carolina, which is between Wilmington and Myrtle Beach, in Leland, North Carolina, as part of a classroom discussion that we're doing based off of episode 55. And really, we were talking about vehicle extrication, and it evolved into this discussion, which does happen around a firehouse kitchen table, much like tonight at this kitchen table will, really about just empowering the organization for whether it's peer-to-peer accountability or whether it's being right seat ready, whatever. So go back and listen to it. You'll love it. But I want to go ahead.
It's taking authority out of rank, or leadership and authority out of rank, really. And it's pushing authority all the way down to the firefighter level a bit. In fact, I mean, we're going to talk about this later. So I thought about the question that we were going to ask tomorrow about, whether or not it's okay for a newer firefighter to either second guess or question authority that's given to them. In fact, I added to the PowerPoint slide is that safe or not? And because I had another thought in my brain, but we'll go over that later. But yeah, anyways, I started thinking about that. But this is our second take here. We didn't hit record, but now we're recording. But I wanted to definitely get it on the record that I'm here at Fire Chief your Hayes' house here in I don't even know where we are. Charlotte.
But yeah.
We'll be in Leland tomorrow. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your hospitality. It's been amazing, and the fact that we've been sitting around the table with drinks, and it feels like we've been friends for 20 years. And I feel like that it really embodies like the whole fire service as a whole. And so thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, and the view and the conversation and just the whole sentiment. I mean, and by the way, we've got pizza on the way. It's after 9:00. And so if one of us darts in front of the camera, it's because the pizza's going to come. And then we probably will eat it cold after, but that's okay. It's really been about the conversation on the podcast, the conversation of self-improvement. Somebody asked me, why do we do the podcast? I think it was Billy, who will be here tomorrow night. Billy from Jobtown Tools is going to come, and we're going to get to hang out and record him as well on a podcast. But he was the one who called us out on our TikTok live and said, why do you do this podcast? And I was writing a bio for a nonprofit that I serve on, and I mentioned the podcast. And it made me physically write down why we do it. But it's about not only professional development, but it's about professional development and self-improvement. I have this conversation for self-reflection. And in episode 55, I even talk about that. I have a self-accountability moment where I say, as a chief, I wish I had more time to go out and explain what I want to do, right? And I think that's that self-accountability and not only that peer accountability. So I don't want to get off on a tangent on that, but that's really what it's about. Adam, do you want to say anything before we get into tonight's topic or today's topic? Whatever.
As you were talking about why we do it, we all originally started with the idea of the cool fireman, we're not the cool fireman. We all aspire to be that cool fireman in your life, everybody has that one person like, that's a cool fireman for whatever reason. And it's just kind of come to the kitchen table and inspire each other. And I listen to these guys a lot, and they motivate me, and they inspire me.
I think it's the true firehouse coffee table that creates discussion all over the nation. Actually, really all over the world. Yeah. We have listeners from Canada, from Sweden, that I've seen in our analytics. It's a very small amount, but I think our pizza's here. But anyway, so that's the headlights. That's like that true, why our podcast, why is the fact that we're creating a discussion from guys from all over the country about different topics of the fire service, and to create discussion and to talk about it is just the first, then you got to act on it. But
I never thought about this till this moment, and I don't know why. I've been on, I don't know how many episodes up till now, but when we talk about the podcast and the kitchen table, I was at the National Fire Academy, and I was very blessed to have a conversation. It was a hard conversation, but a very honest conversation with the superintendent of the National Fire Academy for Taiwan. And you know what? The same conversations that we have on our podcast were some of the same conversations we had at that. I say it was hard only because it was hard for me to understand him because he was from Taiwan. But the conversations were there. He asked me about volunteer fire service. In Taiwan, they don't have it. And he said, so he wanted to understand why volunteerism is the way that it is, because they invest, even in a third world country, they invest in a paid fire service. And he couldn't understand why we allow volunteers. And so I talked to him about pride and tradition and things like that. And it's really bold. So go ahead, Chief.
I listen to y'all guys. I started listening because you were over there. We've known each other a few years. And I started listening because of you got on the podcast. But it doesn't matter where you're at in the U.S. It's the same. We're the same no matter what. We may look different. We may sound different. Mm-hmm. Some get paid, some don't. But we're the same no matter what. And it's like you said, no matter where you're at, the fire service is the fire service. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing to me to where, 85% of the firefighters in this nation are all volunteer. Mm-hmm. It's the vast majority are volunteers. They do it because they love it. That's how I got started. I am blessed to be a paid firefighter now. Mm-hmm. I consider that a blessing because I did it for many years without payment. Yeah. But it's about the service to the community. It's about the service to each other. Because we make fun about, hey, I get to do this and I get to do that. But it's about taking care of each other and taking care of the community we live in. Yeah. And that's what's important about it.
Yeah, it is.
Do you remember what you said about Chief before we hit record?
Yeah, so I do, and thank you for reminding me to say that.
Yeah, I wanted to say it.
I do, and I want to say it again. For the folks that are going to be in our class tomorrow and who don't know Chief Hayes, I have had the pleasure of knowing him for 20 plus years. I think we met at a Fire and Life Safety Educators Conference probably close to 20 years ago. Yeah, maybe probably something like that. I don't know. But one of the things that
before you went to Oslo County, you were still working on Jacksonville before you went to the Ghetto.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I realized tonight as I sat back tonight and really let Chief Hayes talk to Matt and Adam, and so that way they could get to know each other. And I just listened to Chief Hayes talk about his department and his community and things, and genuinely care. You have so many chiefs who are in it for themselves, and he is not that guy. He genuinely cares. And for the firefighters that listen, you should know that the majority of your chiefs are the same way. I go back to episode 55. We are chiefs as a whole. I'm not going to say they're all into that. I don't want to put them all in there. There are some that are very self-serving. There are some that are very vindictive, but don't label them all that way. Take the time to ask the questions. Again, go back to listen to episode 55. Again, that humility moment. But Chief Hayes was very humble out there tonight and talked about the growth and how things have evolved here in this community. And when you look at just what it is here, you know, I look back at certain organizations and I go, this is the reason why so many departments are frustrated between mid-management and senior management because of the inability to communicate because of workload. And we talked about that on 55, was because of just the workload that's there. So what I want to say thank you for allowing us to come and have this conversation with your people tomorrow. And I think that that's what it is. It shows you're invested in your people. And I think that that is invaluable. And so, you know, we're going to talk about that tomorrow with your staff. But any staff that's here, go back to 55 where we talk about peer accountability. So whether your chief will listen to this podcast and do it, there's no way that we could do this, you know, at 100 departments, 10 departments a year. We can't do this. We're just blessed to be here. I think that. But you guys can have that conversation internally yourselves. You don't have to have us to do that. But most chiefs are very humble in the same respect. They're bound to different things and that they have to do, whether it's allocating for staff, people, resources, data, you know, those kind of things. And, you know, we talked about your vision statement and your mission statement. And I love hearing you talk out there about being there for the people of your community and your expectations for your people, because I think every fire chief wants that.
Yeah.
I think every chief wants that.
I mean, it's all about serving the citizens. I mean, if you got in this business, I tell this to everybody, if you got in this business to get rich, you're in the wrong business. The fire service is not going to get you rich. It will make you rich in feelings and rich in the way you care for people, but it will not make you rich in money. You're not going to make a whole lot of money, but you can make a living at it.
Right.
If you do it the right way and you do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. But it's about taking care of the people within our communities and then taking care of each other. The biggest part's taking care of each other. Yeah. Because it's a lot to do. We see things, we hear things, we get treated ways that we shouldn't be treated. But it's about taking care of the community, taking care of each other.
Yeah. So today's episode, whenever it is that you're listening and whenever this plays, the reason why I wanted to get Chief Hayes on here was not to try to stroke his ego. I'm good. But was to talk about his role that he's played in the past, as well as others within his organization in the North Carolina Fallen Firefighters Foundation. I've seen it firsthand play out through some people that have been in my organization. Unfortunately, when my role as county fire marshal, thank goodness we didn't have any line of duty deaths then, but they were resources that I saw as we established a memorial to honor the 13 that we had lost over time. And what I found was just, I mean, when you talk about I don't want to say the networking, but the relationships, we talk about the brotherhood, the things that occur. So for take two, because we just did this, that's when we realized it wasn't working. But for take two, tell us about how you got your start in it, why you got your start in it, and, you know, the purpose behind the foundation as a whole.
Well, I got started because my boss man at the time, Chief Grimes, he was a member of it, and then he got put on the North Carolina State Firefighters Association, which I've been lucky enough to just get appointed to. But when he was on the Fallen, and when he got on there and was getting up, he had to get off because there was too much to do. So I was lucky enough to take his place, pretty much. And I had seen what he had been doing to help not only the families of fallen firefighters, but also help the fire department. And it seemed like something that I wanted to do because it's all about helping each other. It's not about, you know, it shouldn't be all about us. It should be about helping our brothers and sisters. And so he started doing it, and then I got into it, and I hadn't been over there very long, and I wound up having to go to Little Swift Creek. I got a phone call that they'd had a firefighter killed in the line of duty responding to a call, a volunteer. And that's where I met one of your guys. He was captain of Jacksonville, and he had just got on the department, but he was all in the honor guard stuff, and I didn't know that much about honor guards. I'm big in the INT stuff and the incident management stuff. And so that's what I went for. And we met a brand new chief. He'd been chief for like 4 months. He was 20-some years old, and he didn't know what he was supposed to do. And we rolled up in there, and he's dealing with this death, and this fire department's dealing with a death of a 20-year-old kid that was on the department. And it was like, holy crap, this is real. And so it was a learning experience for me and Kevin, because we were both fairly new to the fallen, but it meant so much. I still see that chief. In fact, I saw him at Safer. He come up and shook my hand. He actually sat in the class that I taught at Safer. And we still have that relationship, because when he was in need, we were there. All we did was make sure that the firefighter was handled properly, the family was on properly, and the fire department was on properly. And we made sure that was handled. Now, the state, the Office of State Fire Marshals comes in, and they handle all the paperwork to see if they're eligible for PSOB and all that stuff. They handle all that. But we go in and strictly, or the following goes in, I'm not on it anymore, they strictly go in to make sure that the family and the firefighter and the fire department is taken care of properly. And then they have a memorial. I mean, did you get a chance to go, Adam, to the memorial on Thursday? No,
Well, we're setting up.
So we have in Raleigh, North Carolina, they have a memorial. So the way the fallen was actually started was in 2000, a bunch of Wake County firefighters and all from Wake County started. They thought that, hey, we needed to do something, and they started the North Carolina Fallen Firefighters Foundation, and they got a local artist, and firefighters started throwing wood and all kinds of things, and they started taking pictures. And if you've never seen it, the memorial, I think North Carolina's got one of the prettiest memorials there is. Yeah. And it's at Nash Square in Raleigh, and it has all the fallen firefighters on it from the 1800s on it. I mean, the first year they put 120 some names on it. And then every year they put, they make sure that it's line of duty deaths, and they get put on that memorial, and they get honored in May every year. We bring the families in, they put them up at hotels, and all that's paid for by donations from state agencies, from firefighters associations.
Hat sales,
yes, everything. And they honor the families every May that make that. And so I thank y'all for doing the podcast for it, because right now we're running out of space. So they're fixing to do over $1 million plus expansion so they can do it for the next 20 years. So they're going to add a whole new thing there so they can add space for another 200, 300 names. And I hope it lasts a lot more than 20 years. But and they do it all by donations. There's they get no funding from anybody. It's, you saw them at Safer, they had a big, and then Kevin now is retired from y'all, and he's their full-time marketing guy. So he's got a trailer, and he goes to gospel sings, and he goes to public safety seminars, and they sell hats and coats and shirts and
license plates, stickers,
and that's how they make their money. And they honor, that board does a lot for the firefighters behind the scene that a lot of people don't understand about it.
I think when you say when they take care of them, let's dissect that. So there is a van. Just I'm looking at y'all, so you'll have that level of clarity, and I'm sharing this for the folks that are listening. When a funeral occurs in North Carolina, there are certain funeral homes that will take care of certain things. They've got agreements. These guys,
Dignity Memorial Service. Yes.
Yeah. So they will take. I'll let you speak to that in just a second. But they've literally, this group steps in, and there's certain things that those insurance, those PSOB benefits that he was talking about. Those are things that it's morbid to think about. But when you're an officer in that organization and you're a chief, you need to be thinking about if this happens, right? We talked about doing a risk assessment in our community. So we're going to go down there and say, hey, this high risk, low frequency event, what's my plan? Well, line of duty death benefit or line of duty death in your department is one of those things, right? Cardiac incident is so what's there? If it's just once a year going through and saying, hey, is everybody's benefits stuff right? You know, that's crucial. But having a plan, I know you and I had some experiences. I had an accidental death in my organization when I was interim chief, and the husband and wife had split, and instead of it going to the kids, it went to the wife. And that would have not been his wishes.
Listen,
but that's the way that it was.
Let's talk about benefits. I was at one to where this young guy, he was in his late 20s. His wife with 2 kids didn't get the state benefit, or his wife before her. It was the girlfriend when he was 18. And that happened at the wake for that service. So, you know, she come in, she got a $50,000 check. The girlfriend got a $50,000 check, and the wife of 2 kids didn't get a penny because he didn't change his beneficiary form. And that's what happens when you don't. So it's important for me, I mean, as a chief, we go through every year. I make my guys update their beneficiary forms because the last thing I want to see one of my guys' families goes through is that thing. My men and women that work for me, if they're unfortunate enough to get killed in the line of duty, I hope I'm not the chief anymore when it happens, if it happens, but I want to make sure if it does, their family gets the benefit. And the last thing you want to see is somebody that was before that get the benefits. I mean, it was a disheartening moment to see that happen at the wake of this firefighter. But that's the things that happen that we don't think about. Yeah. These, you know, I don't want to say young kids, but these younger volunteers, these younger people in the departments, they don't take that stuff seriously because they think they're invincible. And then something happens, unfortunately, and they get hurt, they get killed, and then their family doesn't. You know, North Carolina is very lucky in that. Besides PSOB, if you get killed in a line of duty in North Carolina, your children get to go to a North Carolina-funded college free of charge.
Yep.
They don't have to pay for anything. They don't have to pay for room, board. They don't have to pay for anything. The state picks up the tab. Yep. In addition to a $50,000 check that the state gives them, including PSOB. So, I mean, I've watched that happen to where people that shouldn't have been getting that money got the money because a beneficiary form was filled out. And that's important. That's very important.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a lot to add to this conversation just because I'm from the West Coast. I mean, I haven't really dealt with it a lot. Our guys have talked about being prepared for something like that. So it is in the conversation, but there are 1.2 million firefighters in this country. And I will tell you right now that there's probably a small percentage of guys that don't even know what their benefits are.
Exactly.
And so you're a young guy, 21, 22, 23. It doesn't matter. You could be 40, to be honest with you. When you get hired, you're just jacked up. You want to sign those papers. You want to get your badge. You want to get your uniform. You want to get your turnouts, and you want to start training. And so when you're signing those papers, sometimes you might not be 100% there. You're just like, what do I need to sign HR? And I don't know how your department does it. But we sit down with an HR person, and they try to explain it to you, and you're just like, oh, where do I sign? I want to get out of here and where's my uniform? I'm ready to go, Chief.
Yep.
And so maybe this could be a little bit, for me, a little bit of a PSA for firefighters all over this country, whoever's listening to this, to look into, see what your benefits are even are.
Yes, and that was the reason why I wanted to do this, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, to be a wake-up call to that 5 or 10 year guy that's listening to this, right? We recently had Jay Lyons on who talked about, just taking training by the horns. Somebody in the organization needs to be taking this by the horns because there may not be anybody doing it for them.
Right.
The story that Chief Hayes just gave, nobody was doing it. Nobody was, So I think it's important that we look at that kind of stuff,
It makes a big difference because we do the job because we love it. We do the job because we want to help. We know there's danger, but we think we're invincible, especially when you're that young. When I started, I didn't think nothing could happen to me.
Yeah.
But the first time I got hurt in a fire, I was like, holy crap, this is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I had just recently got married when that happened, and it made a difference because I was like, well, what happens to me? My wife's pregnant, and what happens to me if I get killed and she's got to take care of the kid by herself?
Sure.
And so maybe that's where it made a change for me because it happened to me when I was young. But these younger guys don't, and gals, not just guys, they don't think about that. And so that's where the butthole chiefs or battalion chiefs or captains, that's where y'all got to step in and say, y'all need to be doing this. You need to be checking this. You know, where the letter meets the road in the fire service is where Matt's at. Where me and you are as a battalion chief, as a chief, no offense, the guys on the street don't pay attention to us.
Right. No doubt.
You live with them. You're with them 24/7. You're with them all the time. The captains are where the rubber meets the highway. If that captain doesn't take responsibility for looking after his crew, is he or she the person who needs to be there?
Smartphones are smart enough, right? We can set them up to where we could set a yearly reminder ourselves. If we don't do it for anybody else, do it for our people at our home, right? I tell my people that all the time. Right? Like, if you don't do it for anybody, do it for yourself. Do it for your family at home. Do it for whatever. And that goes for anything that it is, right? Because at some point, I could drop dead tomorrow. So I'm telling you these things because you need to do it for yourself. It goes back to some of those people that may not be there. I want to go back to a couple of things. I know we've been going probably about 20, 25 minutes, and we've got to kind of got to circle the wagons here a little bit. Some of the benefits, some of the things that the organization does for long term, right? So the memorial service, like you said, families are invited back. We have the National Fallen Firefighters, so they're recognized on a national level.
Yeah.
There's that, I don't want to say the replacement care, but you know, when there's a line of duty death, there's a hole, right, in that family. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what that looks like. How do they?
Can I finish up adding with the benefits?
Yeah.
The acronym you're using, the server to P.
PSOB.
That's the federal benefits.
Yes, the federal safety.
And a lot of people know that, if you die, you got to think, because your death, we were leaving a lot of money on the table. It's been a long time since I looked at numbers. When I was a E officer, I was really big about the LODD to make sure it's over
about $350,000 to $470,000.
Well, last time I looked at it, was at 374, and I heard it was going.
And that's only the federal level.
That's only the federal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't, got to know that. You were talking about the state stuff. In Virginia, go to free college too. People got to remember the federal level. That's a lot of money, so you want to make sure your benefits are done. And also, I got to ask, people do need to look it up because you're covered, like after you had a working incident, you have a heart attack 24 hours. Yep. A lot of people don't know that. Right. So if you, I found out through my union, I found out my union, at least at the federal level, if you're off duty and you stop and work a vehicle accident, off duty, not in uniform, nothing like that, and somebody clips you and kills you, qualify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what the IFF's told me from their headquarters.
I don't know about that, and that's the difference.
So, either way, the point I was getting at is people need to read this and research that. Not only for you, of course, if you're dead, you got nothing to say. But if I know this, if something happens to Matt,
right,
I can be like, hey, Chief, look at it this way. Look, they said at this level, because he got hit by a car off duty, he was doing firefighter stuff, he's covered.
But here's the catch. We fight fire because we want to help people. Mm-hmm. We do. If you're in this business for the right reason, you do it because you want to help people. Well, why don't you go take care of your family first?
Right.
I mean, if you're willing to do this and jeopardize your life to help someone that you don't know, why are you not going to at least make sure you're prepped right to help your family?
I mean, as a firefighter as a whole, that's a lot of our weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because we're in the business of helping
others,
not ourselves.
And I am the oldest one at this table. There's no doubt about it. That's something you learn. Yeah. That's something as you learn when you get older is, I'm not invincible. Something can happen. And when you see an 18-year-old kid, a 20-year-old kid, you look at the firefighter fatalities and you look at the statistics. Statistics will tell you volunteers die returning and going to cause. Mm-hmm. Career firefighters don't. Career firefighters die from heart attacks, cancer, and entrapments in a fire or training exercises. Volunteers, they die going into from calls because they drive like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so if you're going to do that, that's great. I applaud you for helping. Just don't drive so crazy. But if you are, make sure you crap shot to help your family, especially if you're a young male or female with a family, because you're going to leave them behind and you're young, so they got a long life to live. And so if we're going to take care of other people, we need to take care of self first.
And one last thing I'll add, I'll get back to you, is what are the timelines for, I've always heard autopsy's got to be done in 24 hours. It's been a long time since I've done anything. So what are the timelines to make sure that they do not miss benefits?
So autopsies aren't as big as deals they used to be, but they still, I would recommend, no matter what, if you think it's close, you do an autopsy. But it doesn't have to be done right within 24 hours. It needs to be done within, a day or two. With state benefits in North Carolina come in automatically. No autopsy, but federal does. Federal requires that. The problem with federal now is because they look at so much extenuating circumstances. They paid out so much for cardiac issues years ago. They're a little slower. Feds are a little slower now. So feds could be anywhere from 12 to 36 months. Where generally states going to have, I know for a fact, I've been in a lot of wakes where the states walked in with the check at the wake, with the $50,000 check.
Office.
Yes.
That will send paperwork immediately.
They're there.
Yeah.
And the state does all that with VFIS, with the Volunteer Fire Insurance Services.
Yeah.
So VFIS is the one that does that for all of us. They do a really good job. And we have other insurance companies as well. Providence, another one. But, they really look after that. So every state's a little different. I know North Carolina, I just recently went on the state board. There's 57,000 firefighters just in North Carolina. So, there's 57,000. The state offers them, if they're a firefighter for the state, they get dismemberment insurance that we pay for. Their money they pay to be on the roster, the fire department, and those $10 of that, over $10 of that, goes just to pay for the benefits they get. So the rest of it goes to pay the office staff and all. All of us is on the board. We do it because we want to help and we want to make sure everything's right. But the catch is, these guys with the fallen, they don't get nothing. They're there. When you're on the fallen, you're there because you truly want to help. And that's important because you're not only helping I wouldn't say you're helping yourself. We do this to help people, citizens as firefighters, but when you're on the fallen in those organizations, you're doing that to help your brothers and sisters. So like when y'all talk about the kitchen table, they're really taking it to a different level because they're not only helping the brothers and sisters, they're helping the families of the brothers and sisters. If you've never been to the national ceremony, go to the national and watch all the live stream. Yeah, watch all the people that come in from all over the nation to escort these families. When a family goes to the national, just like when they come to us in North Carolina to do a memorial service, they have a person assigned to them the whole time they're there. If they want work, that person goes and gets it. If they're asleep and they wake up and they need something, they call that person, they go get it. That person is assigned to them the whole time they're there. It's about taking care of the family. The brothers and sisters gave their life in the line of duty, and that organization, the national, the North Carolina, wherever you're at, your state organization, it's about taking care of your brothers and sisters. It's about making sure their families are taken care of. That's what's important.
And it's not just that weekend, and that's kind of what I wanted to close out with, because I want you to kind of talk about how the families are invited back.
Yeah. Well, they're always there. So every time we do a memorial service, every family comes back. Every fire department is invited to bring a truck back. So in North Carolina, we do a parade. And everybody is on the list. Every fire department name that's on the list. If they want to send a truck, they send a truck. They send a truck to respect that guy. The family gets a chance to come back, and then that family can go talk to that other family. Every Friday night before the memorial, we have a dinner, and all the previous families are invited back, as well as the family and the people that's coming. And so, I've experienced a firefighter fatality. Well, you experienced one 4 years ago, so you can sit there and tell them what they're willing to have to go through and what they're going to expect. And then from that, they get a phone number. Y'all talk all the time. And you're in Virginia, you're out in the West Coast, and the other guys, wherever they are, y'all talk. And now you've got somebody, a family member that's going through the same thing you've gone through, that you can reach out to and say, okay, I'm going through this, what's happening? We talk about, how we take care of ourselves with suicides and all that stuff. Well, we don't do it as the following, but we're connecting this family and that family, and then they take care of each other because they all suffered the same loss. It's a little different, but they suffered this. They went through the same grieving process.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the, and I forgot their official name, but it's like the Wives podcast, the Firefighter Chiefs, Dear Chiefs podcast. Yeah, it's kind of like them. They can relate to the spouses of that. That's the beauty of the national in these states, because just like you said, imagine to have a child who loses their parent, and then to not know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right? You go to a counselor and say, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. They may have never, and it's in a very rural county, right? That they don't experience that kind of loss of a parent or whatever. And so that guidance counselor can't help at that school. But you can text a mom or a dad or somebody who can say, yeah, I do know what it's like. And then maybe another state, but the circumstance is the same. I think that's huge.
I'll give you a story. So I've been on the fallen for maybe 4 or 5 years. So there's this one chief that no matter where we were at in the state, if I made a phone call and said, I need honor guards, they would take 4 or 5 people from their county honor guard and at least come help us. And he's traveled the whole state. I've had him in Asheville, and he's from the eastern part of the state. So he drove 6 hours to give us people to honor a family. He unfortunately got killed responding to a call he pulled out from an 18-wheeler on Interstate 95. He pulled out in front of a truck, 18-wheeler, and got killed responding to a call. And I got tasked to go be the IMT for his funeral. 2,200 people showed up at the lake. A volunteer chief, not a paid guy. 2,200 people. There were 1,700 people at the funeral. He was not nice, but they all loved him, and that makes a difference.
I think it speaks to when people care enough, right? When people are willing to give when nobody, I don't want to say when nobody else will, but when people need it the most, when they fill the gap, when they're there. We've got some people right now that have gone through some stuff this week for the Firefighters Association. And, episode 55, it was about about taking time. And these guys know it's a very busy time. And this is not a me moment, but as much as I wanted to send or spend time talking to people, I just tried to text them. Hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. If you need anything. And I think when people do that, sometimes that's all they need. And in that moment, people find the value in that, and it comes back full circle. I would dare say that family was, and I don't want to speak for them, but they were probably completely blown away because they had no idea the impact that husband, father, whatever he was, had done, because he was probably a very humble person.
He was. And what makes it so a benefit out of this is I have people in that fire department, that's been 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I have people in that fire department that when we were in Safer, they come and spoke to me. They come and talk. No matter where I'm at, if they see me, they come and talk to me, because I went in and did nothing but help coordinate it, help make everything happen. I did nothing except make sure the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. But I have lots of friends because of that. If I need something, I pick up the phone, call, they're there.
I think what I'm hearing, and I think the good way to maybe just kind of close this off is the same thing that's offered to the families is the same thing that's offered to the fire service.
Yep.
You get a phone number, you get a resource, because the same things that they're going through, you may have to go through. And so what I would say is, for those that are here, is remember to do your benefits. Remember to have a plan. If you don't have one, go find who does it at a statewide level, right?
And ask them.
Put together a plan. Put together a packet for your department. Find out what the benefits are. Just like Matt was saying, like Adam mentioned, what are the benefits in your community? Have it for yourself, because you need to do it.
And when the chief tells you need to fill this piece of paper out, take it seriously.
Don't halfway do it.
Exactly. Make sure you understand what you're signing and why you're signing it, because it might be the last time you sign it, and it might make a big difference in your wife's life or your kid's life or your husband's life or whoever's. Because the last thing you want to do is look down from heaven and see that check going to the wrong person.
Right. Where it needed to be.
Exactly.
I think this is a good one.
I agree. I mean, if anything, it's created awareness. I mean, Chief, the humility and the humbleness.
Didn't mean to break down. It's
No, but that it's like a true testament to the fire service as a whole. As we call each other brothers and sisters for a reason.
Yeah.
And we call us a family for a reason. And I've heard people in my own department, I don't necessarily call you brothers, I'll call you comrades.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, call it what you will. Right, it's all as important as to yourself. Right, it is, and
you got to count each other.
From the West Coast to the East Coast, from the North to the South, we all love each other because we are all in the shit together.
Yeah.
All right. We see stupid shit that other people don't see. We smell stupid shit that other people don't see, and we deal with it in our fire service way.
Yep.
And sometimes, unfortunately, it's in the cab of an engine and we're laughing and joking, but that's all part of us just blowing it off because we don't want to go home and bring it to our families. And that's what we do at work.
When I put it, we have a group chat. Everybody knows that. We chat with each other almost every day, multiple times during the day on the Cool Fireman Podcast chat thread. And when I said I had some people that I wanted to put on the podcast, and I had Chief Hayes, I knew that there was a reason why I wanted him to do this. Number one, because I've known him for so long, and I knew he would be able to have this conversation. He was bringing us here to have a conversation, and I knew when I was here, I'd be able to have this. You have to have these hard conversations.
Yes.
Right? And that's what we've talked about on this podcast is, right, coming around the kitchen table, having a hard conversation. This has not been an easy one, right? Like, this is, when you look back at all of our episodes, this is going to be the ones that's going to, this is a hard one to get through. And I dare say some people are probably going to want to turn it off. And that's not always a good thing, but it is a good thing because it speaks to the seriousness of the topic.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to think about leaving their family. Nobody wants to think about any of that stuff. But you've got to have it figured out, right? Just like I said.
There's a risk that you will give your life. It's part of the oath, or however you want to say it. It is a part of the job description. You have to plan for it.
It's we jokingly talk about the morbidity of it. That's not even a word. But how morbid it could be. But I can remember a rookie photo shoot with my department historian, and he said, "Hey, smile and maybe beside your coffin one day."
Mm-hmm.
Right. But as morbid as it was,
I put the death photos.
Yeah, but it was a very true statement. But you know what? But go back to 9/11. How many pictures did we see in 9/11?
In their uniforms.
In their uniforms, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's very, very morbid to think about that, but it's so real, and it's a very hard conversation to have. And you don't want to think about the relationships in the firehouse. But, you know, my volunteer department, we have some very brass tack guys in there, and I appreciate it how it is. You know, we live in a military community, and a couple of my guys are like, hey, if anything happens to you, I want you to write down here on emergency contact who you want me to go tell. If it's not your wife, if it's your mom, like the way that they phrase it, it's just different. But it's a very real conversation. I gotta tout. I gotta use your word. I gotta tout my guys at my VFD, because in the military world, it's a very real thing. And they'll look right at that ring and they'll say, hey, if anything happens to you here at the firehouse, who do you want me to go tell?
Yeah, sure.
Right? It may be easier for your dad to go tell your wife. So who do you want me to tell as your emergency contact?
Yeah.
Right? But little things like that, you need to think about it in that perspective. So I think tonight's moment of silence is going to be a little more special.
Yeah. I thought as yet out there.
But I think we owe it to everyone who we've lost this week whenever this episode airs, as well as all the episodes that we've done before, and especially the ones in the future. So y'all ready for that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. Amen. So this has been our episode. Got to give props to the Burn Box Unkie Seasoning for showing up in person. There we go. And a special thanks to Chief Hayes. Thank y'all. Thanks for having me. Y'all got anything else?
No, thank you. This is a very good one.
The guest always has to do it.
Yeah.
On the outro. You know what it is, right?
Yeah, I know what it is. This is how to do it right. Roll it, GG. Roll it, GG.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!